Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome all of you in the audience and at home watching this. This is the 2013 Brisbane City Council Candidates Forum. My name is Mitch Bull. I am the President and CEO of the Brisbane Chamber. We have been sponsoring these events when we have elections for many years, and we are co-hosting with the League of Women Voters, who have been doing this in Central and North San Mateo County since 1944. I'd also like to put a plug in and thank our local Madhouse Coffee for their supply of the refreshments this evening. So on that, I would like to turn it over to Jackie Jacobberger, who will be your moderator for the evening. Jackie, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mitch. First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you here tonight. It's great to see the turnout. I'm Jackie Jacobberger. I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County, and we want to thank the Brisbane Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this forum tonight. It's good when organizations, are committed to informing the voters. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization. We have both men and women, and our purpose is to promote active and informed participation in government. So we appreciate the interest and efforts of groups like the Chamber when they present events that increase voters' knowledge about the candidates and the issues. Now, the purpose of a candidate forum is to provide an opportunity for all the candidates to be heard at one time and to be questioned by you, the audience. We hope that by bringing the candidates and the voters together face to face, voters will be better informed and will make wise decisions on Election Day. So we appreciate, again, your interest in coming out tonight to learn more about the candidates. So tonight you'll hear from the candidates for the Brisbane City Council. There are 4 candidates for 3 seats, and the term of office is 4 years. Now, in the interest of time and fairness to the candidates, I'm going to ask you to hold your applause until the end of the forum, and then we'll thank all of the candidates with our applause at that time. The purpose of the event is to provide the nonpartisan setting to let undecided voters hear all the candidates and to help them choose. It's not for the supporters or opponents of any particular candidate in the audience to demonstrate their own personal preferences. So first of all, I'm going to ask you to turn off all those little electronic gadgets that might ring or beep or do whatever that might interrupt the candidates, because we'd want to give the candidates our full attention tonight. So that's always my first rule that's new, that we didn't have to make in 1944. So we've seated the candidates in alphabetical order, and they are W. Clark Conway, Gavin Kelly Escolar, Cliff Lentz, and Lori S. Liu. Now, we have set some ground rules, and the candidates have gotten those. And the rules for the forum are as follows. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. And then during the question period, each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question. All the candidates will have an equal time to speak to the question. And then at the closing, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Our timekeeper's over here. It's Don Jacobberger. And he will hold up warning signs when the candidate has 1 minute, then 30 seconds left of the allotted time. And at the end of the time, he's going to hold up that stop sign until the candidate quits speaking. And you can finish your sentence. You don't have to stop in the middle. We have questions from the audience. They will be in writing, and the usher has cards for you to write down your questions. I will, if you raise your hand, someone will bring you a card if you need it. And I'm going to ask you to please write legibly and keep your questions brief. I will not ask questions of a personal nature or anything that implies personal invective. So our ushers back here is Karen Bertrand. And again, raise your hand if you need a card, or if you have a card that you want the usher to pick up and bring to me. All questions come to the moderator, and I'll sort the questions by subject, and I'll try to cover a variety of subjects. We seldom have time to ask all the questions, and if necessary, if there's a whole lot of one, I might try to rephrase, but I'll do the best I can. but I'll ask the audience to ask questions that can be answered by all the candidates. Everybody will get a chance to speak to every question, and if it's addressed to only one candidate, it makes it a little bit difficult. So the candidates have drawn lots to determine the order in which they'll speak. So each candidate has 3 minutes for the opening statement. And the first candidate is Gavin Kelly Escolar. You have 3 minutes.
Hello. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gavin Kelly Escolar. I'm one of the candidates that's running for City Council over here in Brisbane. I have lived in Brisbane for almost 4 years now, and surprisingly enough, this is my first time in running for political office. I'm actually an artist at heart. I do a lot of artistic endeavors over here and internationally too as well. And my take on running for City Council is that I know I could give a different impact to our small community and thriving community too as well. Moreover, in regards for me to running for City Council, I know that not only I could give out something back to the community, but I want to get to know each and every one of you guys too as well. That's my take on things. I don't need my 3 minutes, so I could give it to somebody else.
You're done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Escolar. Next is W. Clark Conway.
Okay, my fellow citizens, I was born and raised in Brisbane. I attended both Brisbane Elementary and Lippman Intermediate schools. Both of my parents were actively involved in our community growing up, as were my brothers and sister. My father was elected to the original City Council in 1961 when Brisbane was incorporated as a city. My mother was the original soccer mom, and she was very politically active also. My wife Liz and I are raising our 2 youngest grandchildren who attend Brisbane schools currently, as all 4 of my grandchildren attend Brisbane schools, 1st through 8th grade. I was first elected to the council 20 years ago. I haven't spent 20 years on it because I retired in 2001 and set numerous goals at the time when I was first elected. My first 2 terms, they were all accomplished. They included better recreation, which was virtually non-existent at the time, which included building a swimming pool and restoring the ball fields at both BES and Lippman, and to preserve the open space, in which I initiated the formation of the Open Space and Ecology Committee. To date, close to 50 acres have been permanently protected as open space for future generations to enjoy. I retired, like I said, after my 2nd term. 2005, I ran again. I was elected and then re-elected in 2009. Coming back into office in 2005, we were faced with the Corey housing proposal. In 2001, while I was mayor, I initiated putting this proposal on the ballot that would let the citizens decide on housing or not. This proposal went to the people in 2006, and you soundly defeated it. We're now in the planning phase for the development on the Baylands. The draft EIR report currently in circulation and open to receive comments. This development has to be a sustainable, energy neutral, and possibly produce energy well beyond the project's needs. And most of all, that it's safe. Currently, housing on the Baylands is not allowed by our general plan that was approved by the voters. Nevertheless, the corporate landowners submitted a plan that includes almost 4,500 residential units, which is more than 3 times our size currently. I support your right to vote on the final plan of this project, and I unequivocally support our current general plan with no housing on the Baylands. This will be the biggest issue of the Baylands, and you, the voters, will ultimately decide on the plan. Our budget is currently balanced. We have close to $11 million in reserves. Even though we lost our biggest sales tax producer in VWR, we're able to replace it with the business license tax from Recology. Their project still needs to be processed through completion, then the tax will go even higher. On this ballot includes a business license tax for liquid storage facilities. I support this business license tax. This is Measure Chi. You have 3 votes this November election. I humbly ask for one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Next is Cliff Lentz.
Good evening. I first want to just thank our Brisbane Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight's event. And I also want to thank all of you for being part of the public process. It's an honor to be sitting here tonight as I seek re-election for my second term. As many of you know, I'm a pretty hands-on type council member. I like to do things. I like to engage the community. I've enjoyed working with organizations like the Mob, with our recent playground, remodeling the community center, trying to raise money for the skate park. I've also enjoyed working with Mountain Watch as we strategize trying to create new trails. And I'm currently working or collaborating with them on landscaping the new community center garden, which is a pocket park behind the community center and the library. I'm also, very fortunate to be working on many important council subcommittees. And a council subcommittee provides a great opportunity for a council member to get real in-depth analysis and participation in some of the key matters that pertain to our city. And so I'm on the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, where we're looking at creating a more responsible and transparent priority-based budget. I'm on the School 2x2 Subcommittee, where we are striving to create better communications with our school districts, as well as trying to provide greater educational opportunities for our children. I'm on the Economic Development Subcommittee, where we recently have put forth the Economic Development Plan, and the Council is reviewing it right now. And we feel that that plan could provide a roadmap for future economic prosperity for the city. I'm also on the Sierra Point Design Guidelines Subcommittee, where we are creating a framework for responsible development, as well as looking at public opportunities for the community. And then I'm also the chair of the Sustainability Committee for the Baylands. And we are in the process of creating a sustainability plan that we hope will transform the Baylands into one of the most sustainable developments in the country. So, tonight I'm really excited to be here. I look forward to answering your questions and collaborating with the candidates tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz. And finally, Lori S. Liu, you have 3 minutes for an opening.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Lori Liu, and my husband Ray and I moved to Brisbane in 2004. We started our family here, and we now have a 4-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son who are watching at home right now. When we first moved here, we were immediately struck by how caring and connected the Brisbane community is. Some of the first people we met in town were Council Member Terry O'Connell and Michelle Salmon, who were our neighbors at the time on Sierra Point Road. And they came over to our house quickly to show us how to get a Brisbane star. And I recall one of the first community events that we attended was the community park ribbon cutting ceremony. And I was so impressed by how people came together to create such a beautiful space. And it was this sense of connectedness that has kept us here in Brisbane all these years. I love living in a place where I can go hiking right from my front door, where I can get involved in issues that are important to me, and I can truly make a difference in our community. Over the years, I have volunteered in Brisbane in many different ways. Because I care about the environment and protecting San Bruno Mountain, I have served on the Open Space and Ecology Committee, on the Baylands Community Advisory Group, and I currently sit on the Citizens Committee reviewing the draft EIR for the Baylands. As a parent, I'm a proud member of the Mothers of Brisbane, and I have been active in issues supporting Brisbane's children. 3 years ago, my family moved from central Brisbane to the Ridge, and we made it a point to reach out to our neighbors at the Ridge and to connect them to the wider Brisbane community. And we've realized that, we all have common issues to rally around in Brisbane. And I currently sit on the board of directors of the Landmark at the Ridge Homeowners Association. I've also been active in the Chamber of Commerce and served on their board of directors. And I believe that Strengthening our local businesses is vital to our city's financial well-being. And it's also very important to diversify our tax base, and that's why I support Measure T. Many people ask me, what skills can you bring to the council? Crucial decisions are coming up, especially concerning the Baylands, and this is our community's opportunity to create a model of sustainability that fits the needs of our small town community. As an attorney with 10 years of experience in commercial and real estate litigation, I have the legal expertise that can help this city negotiate for an agreement on the Baylands that benefits our community. I have a strong work ethic, I'm detail-oriented, and I can make independent decisions and fairly evaluate the issues. I'm proud of my accomplishments and would love the opportunity to serve the city further. Thank you.
And thank you, Ms. Liu. Now it's time for the candidates to answer your questions. If you haven't written your question down yet and you need it to be picked up, raise your hand and our usher will pick it up. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer, and I'm going to vary the order in which the candidates are called on to speak. So we have lots of questions here, but we will start with, there's some about revitalizing the downtown and Visitation Avenue. So what's your plan to revitalize the downtown? Do you have plans for bringing businesses to Visitation Avenue, and when do you think that could be accomplished? So let's see. Mr. Lentz, would you like to take that one first?
Sure. Sometime in early 2014, the city will conduct a charrette, which is a community workshop that will focus on not just our downtown, but also the industrial park, the Brisbane Village, and the quarry. And as part of the economic development subcommittee, we have been working with the Urban Land Institute to conduct this charrette, because in order to increase economic vitality in our downtown, we need feedback from the community, and then we need to have a plan to implement that feedback. And so I'm looking forward to engaging the community in that workshop.
And thank you, Mr. Lentz. Mr. Escolar.
In regards to revitalizing downtown, I have researched a couple of options that we could actually do. One of them is actually from Australia. It's there's a program in Australia over there that they revitalized Newcastle, Australia, through arts and cultural diversity with the involvement of the community. So if that is essentially my take on revitalization of downtown, is for the community to get active, bring artists along, foster new revenue generating streams through art to culture and diversity too as well.
Thank you. And Ms. Liu.
Thank you. I think revitalizing the downtown corridor in Brisbane is really essential to providing good services for our residents and also diversifying our tax base. I think we need to look closely at this economic development plan, and I'm looking forward to the charrette that will be done hopefully in the next year. And I think we need to consider not just serving the citizens of Brisbane, but how can we bring outside people in, and how can we serve the employees who work here, because there are so many employees in town in comparison to the number of residents. One interesting idea that my husband and I have tossed around this past year is actually a mural project, which they have in another town called Exeter, and that might be a way to encourage the arts, bring in some outside interests, and put murals throughout town that would depict the history of Brisbane and the region and San Bruno Mountain, and I would love to see that happen.
Thank you. And let's see, Mr. Conway.
All great ideas, and you know, certainly that's what it takes is a community to do it. Our Chamber of Commerce has worked with the downtown merchants through the city. We kind of formed like a downtown merchant association in a way, and this has happened a number of years ago. But we found that two things that really need to happen, and one is money, and the other is a will of property owners. And we found that there's a lot of property owners who weren't willing to put the money into revitalizing their property, and that puts it on the business owners sometimes. And so you have to find a way to have that connectiveness, and that's really where the rubber meets the road. And I think, you know, all these ideas are great ideas in order to do that, but we have to find cost-effective methods in order to do that, and that still requires a certain amount of money. So,
thank you, Mr. Conway. Let's see. Oops, I do this random, and I'm going to just start with you again on this, Mr. Conway first. The question is, the police budget is costly. We do not have much crime. How about having the sheriff's office come here? It worked fine in Millbrae. And Mr. Conway, would you start, please?
Yeah, certainly. We've actually kind of looked at that option, but you know, saying that the police budget is massive and that we have lack of crime, well, that's because we got good police. You know, and I think that they do their job, and you know, our police chief grew up in town here, and she really understands community-oriented policing. You know, she's born and raised here and understands what Brisbane's about. And you know, while we have our issues and stuff like that, you know, we're a darn good town. We operate correctly, I think, with our police force, and they do it professionally. And there's a reason that we're safe.
Thank you. Ms. Liu.
Thank you. We are so lucky here in Brisbane to have our own police force, and I think that's one of the real benefits of living in a small town that's still a full-service community. I would hesitate to look to outside contracting out for police force for the same reasons that Clark mentioned. You know, we have a police force right now that knows our community, knows the streets. If there's ever an emergency, they can be there right away. And I think that given our geographic location, it's also beneficial. So I would encourage, if possible, within our budget, to stick with having Brisbane police work in Brisbane.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. And next, Mr. Lentz, question.
Yeah, the reason why we have very low crime is because we have an excellent police force, very dedicated individuals. You know, back when Millbrae decided to use the sheriff, it was in the midst of the Great Recession. All cities were hurting significantly, Brisbane included. We did look at the numbers, you know, but it didn't work out for us. And you know, sometimes you look at the finances, and sometimes you look at what the benefit is to your community, and having a full-fledging police department was extremely important to us. And actually, in the end, it worked out financially better for us to keep our police department. And I'm glad that we did, because you have consistency with your officers and with your entire department. And the police department is just one of the spokes that makes our city government work so well. And so you want to keep consistency.
And thank you, Mr. Lentz. And finally, Mr. Escolar.
I have never felt safer anywhere else but here. That's my key thing. And I would like to keep the police force the way it is right now, actually. That's that.
Oh, okay, that was quick. Caught me by surprise.
Easy as that.
Okay. There are so many questions here, so this is getting really difficult to even look at them all. But let's see. The next question, what will you do to create more quality community recreation in town, and where will that money come from? Ms. Liu, could you start with that one, please?
Sure. Well, as a parent, I'm certainly interested in creating quality recreational opportunities for our families here, and I'm very proud that we recently renovated the community park playground, and it makes me so happy to see it being so well utilized. It really does not just provide a good outlet for recreation, but it connects our community and is used at events like the concerts in the park. What we did there was we fundraised through the Mothers of Brisbane, and that was very successful. I would encourage community groups like the Mothers of Brisbane to continue to advocate for our children to create those recreational opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see, Mr. Conway.
Yeah, one of the things we need to do is really kind of incorporate any new type of recreation into our economic development. I think they go hand in hand, really, and that's kind of sometimes a part of the missing puzzle. And it requires, active parents, and we got a lot of active parents in Brisbane. I found that out, especially with the soccer and everything like that. There's a lot of great programs that go on. It's just, sometimes finding out what they are and where they are, and sometimes the city doesn't sponsor all of that. And how would we pay for it is currently, we don't make a whole lot of money on our recreation. Matter of fact, we lose money on recreation. But it's one of those community values that people really want, and that's something that I certainly support. So,
okay, thank you. Let's see, Mr. Conway. Next, Mr. Escolar.
The way I look at it, I would like to know how many people first do attend our current recreational activities, if it's full already as it is, and moreover, if we need more. Of course I want more, that's the thing. But I just want to make sure that our current recreational activities are being fully utilized first. Because we already put in some money over there, might as well utilize it first, then improve on it afterwards, and provide more services to our citizens.
Thank you. And let's see, where are we? Finally, Mr. Lentz.
Recreation services and activities, they're really the face of the community, and when you see people out there enjoying themselves, that the community is enjoying being in the community when you have activities. And so even though recreational activities sometimes it can be a strain on the budget, they are vital to the actual health of the community. And so to me, in order to have great recreational activities, you need to engage the community. And part of that is working with our Park and Rec Commission. We have an excellent Park and Rec Commission that is very motivated to do great things for our citizens. And so, one of the things that we're looking at is creating a new park out at Sierra Point. We just finished doing a pocket park behind the community center and garden. So, and I think the next big recreational project is the skate park.
Thank you. I have quite a few questions here on Measure T, and so I guess we'll take this one on because it seems like a lot of interest in it. What is your position on Measure T? And Mr. Escolar, will you start, please?
I'm all for businesses. I'm all for improving the, what I'm trying to say is I'm all for businesses, and if it's something that can help out actually economically over here, I'm all for it.
Thank you. And Mr. Conway.
Of course I support it. I've been saying it all along, and as a city council member, a current one, we know how important it is to diversify our budget, and Measure T is a piece of that puzzle. So I unequivocally support Measure T. It's very important for us.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Conway. Mr. Lentz.
Yes, I also support Measure T. As council member, we have a responsibility to be financially sound. And the only way to do that is to look at ways of increasing revenues. Measure T is a business license tax. We have other business license taxes. And so this particular use of storing fuel is something that I feel is an appropriate tax on that particular operation. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Liu.
Thank you. I also support Measure T. I believe that it will allow us to diversify our tax base. We all remember from recent memory that VWR left Brisbane and left an over $2 million hole in the city's budget. Luckily, we were able to fill that hole with the business license fee from Recology, and this is yet another way to diversify that tax base. We also need to look at the history of the tank farm. When it first came into town in the 1960s, it was providing us with tax revenue, and that was a major reason for us allowing them to come and build the tank farm. And this would allow us to, derive some benefit from the tank farm that we believe that they owe us. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we also, there are, like I say, there's so many questions here, but there a lot of interest in attracting business, and so we'll take this question. How would you approach attracting businesses that collect sales tax to Brisbane? Are there any types of businesses that you would oppose bringing into our community? Mr. Lentz, would you start?
Sure. Trying to bring in businesses that provide sales tax is difficult. Recology was a very unique situation. It wasn't a retail store, yet they provided an extreme amount of tax revenue to the city. Typically, the way you get sales tax money is by retail, but our town really isn't set up at this time to accommodate that. With the charrette, it'll give us an opportunity to look at at Crocker Industrial Park. Currently we have a lot of businesses that have a lot of truck traffic, and I know that isn't something that we want. The charrette will allow us to have an opportunity to perhaps restructure the industrial park to be more economically efficient and more appropriate for our community.
Thank you. Mr. Escolar.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
How would you approach attracting businesses that collect sales tax to Brisbane? Are there any types of businesses that you would oppose bringing into our community?
Oppose bringing to the community? How would I attract retail? Well, unfortunately, within our small community, there's not a lot of full-fledged retail purposes over here, except for our coffee shop and our small retail restaurants and stuff. And what I'm trying to say is that one of the things that I oppose right now is to have a medical marijuana dispensary over here in Brisbane.
All right. Thank you. Let's see. Ms. Liu.
Thank you. As a previous member of the Chamber of Commerce Board, I know that the city is very focused on attracting new businesses to town, and certainly those that would provide us with a tax revenue. I believe that the economic development plan had some good ideas. For instance, in Crocker Park, we need to encourage the businesses that are existing there to open up showrooms, and those would then bring in some sales tax from the people that would, purchase items that they're selling. And as for businesses that, I would oppose, I think that we need to really look at it on a case-by-case basis and see if it is the right fit for our town.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. And finally, let's see, Mr. Conway.
Yeah, currently we have probably about 7 or 8 businesses that bring in hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales tax, and that's each one of those businesses, different amounts, of course. In our economic development plan, we are working on formulating a brand of what we want to bring to Brisbane, and put that out to folks who are looking for a home. We're looking at tapping into San Francisco's market. They're starting to flood over. Type of business I wouldn't want would be Walmart. I think they're a business killer, and I wouldn't want them here.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. Well, we'll go a different direction now. This question has to do with the Baylands, but it says, I know that no housing is allowed at Baylands, but Brisbane is obligated to provide some new housing over the next 20 years. How would you respond to this requirement? And let's see, Ms. Liu, would you start?
Sure. As you all probably know, the 1994 general plan says no housing at the Baylands, and that is the current will of our city, of the residents of our city. And unless that changes, that is what our citizens want. I understand that it is a delicate balance because there are the numbers from the state saying you need to provide housing, and I think that we need to really look at that carefully and see if there's other ways that we can allow the state and other agencies to understand that there are so many other benefits that we provide as a city. Our access to open space, our proximity to the city, and we need to work with them to try and build upon those interests and assets that we have.
Thank you. Mr. Conway,
Yeah,
housing.
well, I think most people know where I stand on the Baylands housing. But with regards to being able to provide housing in Brisbane, I think it really is important. I know that we looked at rezoning some portion of Crocker Park that's right across the street from City Hall and doing some dense housing. And I think the important part is having affordable housing. And affordable housing, I think, is the most important feature of it because, you have your service industries, our school teachers, our fire, police people that right here in the immediate Bay Area right now, this housing is not affordable for those folks, unless they've already got some equity in some other home. So I think that's an important feature to have, is to make it affordable. And that would be the balance to really be able to make that work.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Lentz.
Sure. Housing out at Baylands is a very complex issue. On one hand, you have our general plan that prohibits it. On the other, you have the developer UPC proposing over 4,000 units, which, in my opinion, is unrealistic. And then in the middle, you have a desire to be sustainable. So for me to even consider housing out in Baylands, it needs to be safe. And the only way that I'm going to feel comfortable with it being safe is that we have someone like Dr. Lee as our consultant advising us how to deal with the contamination that's at the site, because he is a person who the community respects and trusts. And then, in the end, we're going to have a survey that's going to go out to the people, and ultimately you will decide, the housing issue in the Baylands. But of course, we need to know all the facts. All the information needs to be out there so that we can make informed decisions.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Escolar.
Yes, the housing should be all completely well thought out. I agree completely with Mr. Conway over here in regards to having affordable housing for our service industry people, especially for artists like myself and police and the police force, firemen, and teachers. I want them to actually, be in their profession and at the same time can actually afford to live in the community that they serve.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Got that one. Let's see. Here's another interest in the industrial park. What percentage of the industrial park is currently rented, if you know that? And what's your approach to strengthening this revenue source? Mr. Conway.
Yeah, actually, I think the percentage is, and I'm looking at Mitch here, I think it's 80 to 85% rented right now, somewhere in there.
It's above that.
Yeah, above that, okay. It recently was down, and it's really picked up, and we've kind of been working, we have been working actually with the brokers, and Cliff and I are on the subcommittee of economic development, and we're trying to change the perception of Brisbane itself, and because we kind of got a bad name out there with some of the brokers, and so we really want to change that, and that's been changing, and our park has been filling up with some very good businesses. So I'm happy with that, and we're going to continue on to proceed with that. We just got knocked around pretty hard in this last recession, and we want to prepare for the next one.
Thank you. Well, we know the percentage now. So, Ms. Liu, do you have an approach to strengthening the revenue source?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, we need to work with the existing businesses and encourage them to open up showrooms that would bring in sales tax. And the Economic Development Subcommittee is working on developing a brand, and I think that will be so critical to allowing Brisbane to market itself, and working with the local brokers is hopefully going to be very helpful in that regard.
Thank you. And Mr. Escolar.
Yes. I already spoken to a couple of people in regards to the business parts of the commercial centers over there, like Glam Media, and they and at the same time in regards to the vacancy rates, I would like to propose on sending over artistic endeavors, i.e. San Francisco Film Society would be very interested to look at Brisbane empty commercial spaces for film documentaries and video editing.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Lentz.
Sure. Thank goodness that the economic conditions have changed. It was pretty dismal in the industrial park not too long ago. But for us, filling up the park is great, but we just kind of threw a net out there and took in whatever came our way. And thank goodness we got some good businesses, but we need to do better than that. And like Clark was saying, we need to identify what our brand is. This charrette will help us to focus on the types of businesses that we would like to see. And then hopefully the council will approve some kind of economic development point person, because the city doesn't have one right now. We need to have a person who can work directly with the chamber, directly with businesses, and report to the council. And hopefully then we keep everybody in the loop so that we're not only reaching out for new businesses, but we are also connecting with our current businesses as well.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz. Let's see. Well, this is interesting because I actually kind of looked up to see what kind of issues there were in Brisbane, and this one came up. Aircraft noise is a problem in Brisbane. Do you have any ideas about what can be done to get the FAA to reduce the frequency and number of noisy flights? Or what other maybe ideas you might have about aircraft noise? Mr. Escolar.
Well, if we want them to fly somewhere else and we revise their flight path, that would be ideal. But unfortunately, we are in this current situation, and I think there's a lot of people, a lot of ex-council members who actually fought for the airport noise already. And they also, I feel that right now we are in this current situation, and we just have to make the best out of it and then prohibit more flights going to our direction and actually make them fly somewhere else. Different flight path.
Yeah. Mr. Lentz, do you have any ideas about aircraft noise?
Sure. Currently, I'm representing the city of Brisbane at the airport roundtable. And last week, I was at the Tracon FAA facility near Sacramento, and I had a meeting at Jackie Spears' office last week with, I think, Peter Grace just arrived. And so I'm kind of taking a short-term approach and a long-term approach. Short-term is to collaborate with Oakland's airport and their noise forum to try and get the Oakland flights to be higher so that then the SFO flights can be higher. And then as a long-term plan, the FAA is implementing a GPS system. It's called the Metroplex system, where all the planes will be on a fixed route. And at the meeting at Jackie Spears' office with the FAA, we demanded that we be a part of the planning process, not the comment period, but the planning process, so that the flights that come over Brisbane are respectfully flown.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz. Mr. Conway.
Well, ditto Cliff's saying there, because he said it very well. But one of the problems has been is that when the planes do leave the airport, is they allow the pilots to take over, according to the FAA. And some of them like to turn left real fast. In other words, come down this way and they turn left right over Brisbane. And Brisbane's like a bowl, so it reverberates. If you sit out in the middle of the bay, the plane can fly over your head. You can have a normal conversation. But it's because of how we're the contour of our mountain. So really what it is working too with the airlines and having some kind of sanctions, which they said that they're not sanctioned. I think that, some of the citizens ought to really get active and do some stuff in small claims court, which they say is exempt, but I don't think so.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Conway. Now, Ms. Liu.
Thank you. I agree as well with everything that Cliff said. I agree we need to have a short-term and a long-term approach, and the long-term approach is going to be very important because once this predetermined flight path is set, it's going to be much harder to change it after the fact. So we really need to get involved now so we can have some input to make sure that that flight path does not go over Brisbane.
Thank you. Now here's another, let's see, this one's a little bit specific. What's your position on preserving Levinson property as open space, ecological reserve. Is there anything the council can do to assist with such preservation? And Mr. Lentz, would you start with that one?
Sure. I completely support protecting those areas. I don't want to see any type of development there, unless it was like a school, you know, or a nature center. But you know, there are these planned conservation areas, and we're looking into perhaps trying to dedicate that site along with the rest of San Bruno Mountain as a planned conservation area. You know, it's unfortunate that we don't have RDA anymore, which was a funding mechanism where we could purchase land and use eminent domain. But I think if we work together and come forth with a good plan, we can protect it.
And thank you, Mr. Lentz. Mr. Escolar.
I completely agree with you, actually. I just want to keep it safe, keep it open space, and keep it preserved.
All right. Thank you. And Ms. Liu.
Thank you. I agree as well that we need to work on preserving that as open space, and that will help, you know, preserve the character of our community.
All right. Thank you. And Mr. Conway.
I know it's actively being marketed right now because a lot of people have been checking in at with planning department on what they can do there, which is not really good in order to preserve it as open space. I met with Mountain Watch a couple of years ago, and we were kind of brainstormed with their city staff of what we could do. And one of the things I actually looked at was turning it back into a dairy and having it fit with our local sustainability plan, but it also would be very educational for kids to find out where milk really comes from. And, you know, not from the supermarket, but that's something that I'd like to see come to fruition. But really what it takes is it's going to take a bit of money to purchase it and more money to be able to build it, and then money to sustain it. So it's something certainly worth seeking, and if somebody knows somebody out there who has something, I asked them to contact the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to see what they could do. So.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Well, I have several questions here about, I guess, condition of buildings downtown. It seems like the town's getting dirtier, trash, abandoned cans. We have some derelict and eyesore buildings on our main street. And somebody wants to, refers to another business as a downtown eyesore. Do you have any plans for cleaning up the town and dealing with these kind of eyesore issues? Mr. Conway.
Yeah. As far as debris on the streets, I mean, we do currently street cleaning on Visitation. It's the only one where we actually have cars moved off the street or they're ticketed. In regards to cleaning up some of the buildings, again, you got to have, you know, property owners who want to participate or want to fix their properties up, and if they're not willing to do it, you know, once it kind of dilapidates, and then you can do some enforcement. I know that unfortunately the city owns one of the worst ones on there, but that was a site where we're looking at possibly building a library and some affordable housing, but that's going to be down the road a little bit, so we have to figure out what we're going to do with that.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Conway. Ms. Liu.
Thank you. Yes, trash and, you know, abandoned derelict buildings is a problem in our town, and we want to, of course, encourage the town to be as beautiful and clean as possible. And, you know, we have to give a lot of kudos to John Quilter, who no longer is in town, but who went around picking up trash. And I think it would also be a good opportunity for us to encourage other residents to take up that role. I know the city actually, after Mr. Coulter left town, said, does anyone else want to help out? And there were no responses. So one idea I have would be to have an Adopt a Street program similar to Adopt a Drain, or, you know, we basically could, as private residents, say, I'm going to pick up the trash on this street. One idea also I'd like to promote would be with respect to buildings that need painting or some refurbishing. It would be great to have residents come together and volunteer to help fix up those properties, because a lot of times the property owners can't do it themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Escolar.
I think in order for us to revitalize the downtown area, it would take a community effort, a total community effort for us to do so. We're the ones who's actually ultimately responsible for our own city. And the way I look at it, it takes us first to actually pick up our own trash before anything else. And moreover, it also takes, once we actually put it into ourselves that we should be the ones who pick up our own trash and keep our downtown clean, we could actually provide that to our children too as well. Another component that I could also suggest is to bring artists into the downtown area, like what Ms. Liu said in regards to putting murals up. I think that's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, Mr. Lentz.
Sure. The trash issue, I mean, it's really the community issue. We just have to be more responsible with, the things we throw away. But looking at some of the city buildings, I mean, when you look at visitation and something that kind of ties into upgrading the downtown. Not only do we own the five-star cafe side, but we also own the library community center. We also own the teen center. And so we own these properties, and we do have some money that's coming in. And so I think there's an opportunity for us to work together and start to prioritize some of the things that we want to do, whether it's expanding the library or building a new community center. These things can happen, but we need to work together to make it so.
Thank you. And let's see, I think I didn't miss anybody. Okay. Here's another interesting question. What opportunities do you see to engage neighboring cities to improve the lives of Brisbane residents and businesses? Let's see, Ms. Liu, do you see any opportunities there?
Sure. Well, that's a very interesting question. I believe that, as council members, the council members could certainly reach out to other council members in other cities when attending events and find out, hey, what are you doing right now in your city? Here's what we're doing in ours, and here are maybe some countywide things that we can collaborate on. I know we're also known as the sister city to Brisbane, Australia, and while we can't unfortunately have another sister city formally, it would be great to partner up with other cities on the peninsula on some projects.
Thank you. Mr. Conway.
Yeah, actually, I having been on the council, I know all the council people in Daly City, South San Francisco, Colma, and most of San Mateo County, and we constantly exchange ideas on personal levels and also on a political level too, on things that we can do. And I mean, currently we do some exchange. We have our fire department. We work with Pacifica and Daly City as North County Fire. It's one operation. South San Francisco, we have them come in and they do our street lights and things like that. So, I mean, there's some collaboration there. But there's also the exchange of ideas. And we also do it with other cities through the League of California Cities. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas out there that other cities are doing. And they also get a lot of good ideas from Brisbane, too. Because, we've really been leaders out there, and we are the first ones who've actually did their second city in California that did a green building ordinance. So.
Thank you. And Mr. Escolar.
There's a lot of opportunities for us to actually collaborate with other cities, because there are something that they have that we don't have, and there's something that we have that they don't have. I.e., we have San Bruno Mountain. We have a lot of we have San Bruno Mountain. We also have the Bay. We also just our geological location is just simply spectacular in comparisons to other cities, and more and from there we could also foster businesses too as well with other cities too. Like, we could furnish up think tanks. We could also put in some incentives for other spillovers from startups from San Francisco to come over and come over here to Brisbane. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lentz.
Sure. Yeah, collaborating with other cities is extremely important. Even though, we try and maintain our own, sense of who we are, we're still connected. We had to collaborate with the city of San Francisco in regards to ecology, and then that worked out pretty well for us. Currently I'm on the HEART board, which raises money for affordable housing, and I'm on that board with other council members from other cities, and so I get feedback from them on what they are doing, and then I bring that back to the city. Going to the League of California Cities conference, being on one of the policy committees, you get this information from other communities, and you bring it back to your town, because you can't live in a bubble. It's important to get information from others.
Right. Thank you. Well, here we'll get a little more specific on one issue. Our skateboard park is a popular destination for children, teens, and adults, but it is old and in disrepair. After numerous community meetings, the Park and Recreation Commission has made this their #1 priority. Would you support a new skateboard park? Mr. Escolar.
Absolutely. I would definitely support skateboard park. I was a skater myself when I was young, and it kept me out of the streets. Thank you.
Thank you. That was nice. Mr. Conway.
Yes, I do support it. Skateboards just came out when I was a kid, and we used to ride them down San Mateo Lane. Ask John Burr. So it was pretty gnarly, I guess. But right now we're our subcommittee is working on a skateboard park. The Parks and Rec Commission's already approved to go forward with it, but the next step is we're going to be bringing it to the facility subcommittee of Ray Miller and myself to take a look at what it's actually going to take. I know there's a lot of citizens behind this, so I certainly support that.
Thank you. Mr. Lentz.
Sure. Yeah, I very much support redoing the skate park. There's a lot of folks who are passionate about it and are willing to put in the time and the energy to make it happen. And when community members do that, council members need to listen, and they need to support that. I mean, that's how we got the really nice playground. And so, I think that we can, work with those folks who want it to help raise the money to remodel it. And so I hope that we can move quickly on it, because I think it's a vital part of kids' recreation in our town.
Right, thank you. And Ms. Liu.
Thank you. Yes, I know there's a lot of support and encouragement for renovating the skate park, and especially for the kids who have outgrown the playground. Families want a safe and active environment for their children to go, and I certainly understand that. And I think we can work with the model that we used for the playground, which was so successful. We need to work, with the Mothers of Brisbane and other groups and find ways to fundraise, because the biggest issue is going to be, how do we pay for these improvements?
All right, thank you. Well, let's see. We're working down these, but still lots of them. Here we'll change a little bit here. What relationship should Brisbane have with Jefferson High School, the Jefferson Union High School District, and the new charter high school in Daly City? I know it's not a city council issue, but I think that you may have some ideas about working with these, this district. Let's see. Let's start with Mr. Lentz.
Sure. We've had a great relationship with the Jefferson Union High School District. In the past, we would give them, I think over $60,000 a year for educational programs, and I think Clark Conway was, initiated that, after-school programs, AP classes. But of course, then with the downturn in the economy, the the school district couldn't afford allowing to pay for the bus for our kids to go to those schools over in the Jefferson Union High School District, and so we had to divert funds from for education towards transportation. But we still have a great relationship with them. I think it can be strengthened, but we need to look at all options that are on the table, not just the ones that we are currently in.
Thank you. And Mr. Escolar.
Well, we definitely need to strengthen based upon our education with our relationship to Jefferson High School and the Daly City Unified School District. But ideally, hopefully, eventually, I would like to have the schools over here in Brisbane to actually educate our own.
Thank you. Ms. Liu, any ideas?
Thank you. As a parent, I believe education is of utmost importance, and I believe that we need to figure out ways to support the high school district. And of course, the school board has jurisdiction and authority over those issues, but we as a city and through the city council can collaborate on ideas and find ways to make sure that we are supporting our children's education.
Thank you. And Mr. Conway.
Yeah, a number of years ago, back in '99, I had put into a resolution with the city council on putting the money towards Jefferson Union High School District, which most of our kids go to Terra Nova in Pacifica. And we were donating $67,500 a year towards advanced placement classes, computer labs, and extended library hours at Terra Nova, and also a late bus service. But with all the cutbacks that the schools have had, this ended up into a bus service, and that's really not what it was intended for. Currently, believe it or not, Jefferson High School, out of all three high schools, or four high schools in the district, which is Oceana, Terra Nova, Westmore, and Jefferson High School is putting more kids in college right now. Our kids in Brisbane are going to Terra Nova. And there's a reason that Jefferson's doing that. And there are some things that are happening there that are good. And they're the closest school to us. A lot of people don't want to go there. But right now, more kids are going to college out of Jefferson. And I think Shasta School is part of the district now, even though they're
Thank you.
a little bit different. So,
thank you. Here's a little more theoretical question. Make you think. If Brisbane residents, your constituents, contact you on a particular issue, strongly expressing the same opinion, I think it means an opinion, but you disagree. They're asking how would you vote on that issue, but I'd maybe think a better phrasing of that is how would you evaluate that issue if you realize some of your residents were disagreeing with you? And I may be misinterpreting that, but it's kind of an odd question. Ms. Liu.
Sure, thank you. I think I understand the question. And, basically as city council members, we are elected officials and we represent the community and the entire community. So of course not everyone is going to have the same opinions on issues. That's what makes Brisbane a special place. And it's important for the council members to really have an ear towards what all of the residents collectively are saying and make their decisions not based on what they personally believe, but what their constituents collectively think is the right thing.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Conway?
yeah, that happens all the time. Because, I mean, people can be really strong and passionate about what they believe in, and you really have to take it at face value, of what that is, and regardless of what the situation is. And it always comes down to a balance on making a decision, and you have to look at the community as a whole. Even if a person has a very strong advocacy in one position and they may have a couple people behind them, there's always the counterpoint. And what I found in Brisbane, a lot of times there's a real silent majority out there that you never hear from. And, and it's kind of sad in a way because you want to hear from everybody on it, And at the same time, there's a few people that are the vocal leaders in the community too, and they can move things along and they can move issues. So, you really got to listen to them too. It is key. But there was issues where we were faced with where you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard spot. So.
Thank you. Let's see, Mr. Lentz.
Yeah, sometimes it is quite a balancing act, but the best thing you could do is to do your homework and understand the facts. If there are certain folks that disagree with you or that have disagreed with me, sometimes I'll reach out to them personally and and talk to them about the issue and try and understand where they're coming from. Many times though, they are determined to think the way that they want to think, and it's not my role to change their mind. It's just to explain where I'm coming from, and that I, as a council member, I do represent the whole community, not just a certain fraction of it.
All right, thank you. And let's see, who am I missed? Mr. Escalar, did I miss you?
Yes,
Yeah.
Thank you. The main reason for me to run for city council over here is to be a representative of the community. And I would like to hear from each and every person in Brisbane and what their thoughts are in regards to a particular subject before I can make a decision. Moreover, it's the way I would think is I would like to think of it as my decision is for the betterment of the whole community, not just for one particular group.
Right. Thank you. And as I sat here and read that question, I realized what it really meant, but I wasn't clear at first, so I may have asked it badly, but I think you did fine answering, all of you. Okay, let's see. There's still this questions about the industrial park, and we have time for a couple of more questions. Do you support rezoning the industrial park to mixed use? If so, how would that benefit the community? And if you don't support rezoning, why? And let's see, Mr. Conway, would you start?
Yeah, a portion of it, we've already basically have delineated that we will turn it to mixed use, and that's the 3 parcels across the street here from City Hall back behind everybody. As far as doing the whole industrial park, that's something that really would require some serious study, because we got some very viable businesses in there, and you wouldn't want those businesses to leave in lieu of building mixed use just to have mixed use. And so we got to look at what we have, and then really where we want to go. And Cliff has referred to this charrette that quite a few times tonight, and that's one of the things of being able to do that, is take a look at that. And that would be a community effort, but it would require a lot of study before I'd really say, yeah, I support that or I don't support that.
Thank you. Ms. Liu, rezoning.
Thank you. Yeah, I believe the industrial park has a lot of potential, and we need to look, at each part of that development on a case-by-case basis and see what kind of use would best serve the community. One idea would be, if we needed to put housing, we should, consider whether parts of the industrial park could be rezoned to allow for housing. Instead of, or in addition, not in addition to, in place of the housing at the Baylands. I think, there might be some benefit to that, because it would be much closer to the rest of the Brisbane community, and it would connect the residents from central Brisbane to the Ridge. So I think we need to really be creative and think about what is the best use of Cocker Industrial Park.
Right. Thank you. And Mr. Escalar?
In regards to rezoning, I think that we should definitely take care of what existing businesses that we have there, is what Mr. Conway would have said. And I agree with you too, Ms. Liu, in regards to actually providing new creative ways to rezone the area. But we just need to make sure first that the current businesses over there are well taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, Mr. Lentz.
Thank you. As Clark has mentioned, the council has reviewed rezoning the properties, and a few years ago the council as a whole agreed to move forward in that direction. By rezoning those 3 properties to mixed use, it provides an opportunity not only to provide affordable housing that we need for our sons and daughters and teachers and and the like, but perhaps providing some of the amenities that we're lacking, like a pharmacy or another grocery store option, because you could potentially open up part of Bayshore that currently our town has shut out. Looking at the rest of the park, the charrette is going to be the opportunity for the community, and when I mean the community, not just the citizens, but also the businesses. It's a full collaboration to look at how do we take this really underperforming industrial park and make it a better place for all of us.
Thank you. Well, I'm going to kind of end with a this will, I think, probably has to be our last question so that we can end on time. But this is a little bit difficult, so I'm going to rephrase it. But I think this person is interested in how you feel about sustainable and environmental issues that they're asking about: solar energy, native plants and animals. They threw in creation of jobs, but I think they're probably looking to know how you feel about some of our environmental issues. So if you think you can do that in a minute, Mr. Escolar.
Well, we are in a very unique situation in which we have the Bay and we also have the San Bruno Mountains. I would suggest, in regards to sustainable energy, first of all, one needs to be LEED certified, one needs to go through that motion and stuff like that. But we could look at creative ways in order for us to actually generate more revenue when it comes to environmental sustainability. For example, eco-tours. For example, bike paths that we could actually do, sailing classes and the marina, and other things like that we could actually generate new revenues from for the city, and at the same time preserve and at the same time foster environmental issues and environmental preservation too as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lentz. Yeah.
Sure. When you listed those items that were part of the question, to me, that person hit it on the head. When I look at sustainability, I'm not just thinking about the environment, I'm also looking at economics, I'm looking at social equity, and that all three should be intertwined together, working in harmony with each other. Being on the sustainability committee for the Baylands, we're focused on the Baylands, but one of the things that we have recommended to the council is that we take the principles from that plan and implement them into our general plan, so that anything that we do as far as economics goes is in line with environmental and social equity. And the same thing, environmental things should be in line with economics and social equity. So I think that is the direction of the future, not just for us, but really for the survival of the planet.
Thank you, Mr. Lentz. Mr. Conway.
Yeah, I think it's really a holistic approach. You take the environment, housing, economics, recreation, it all ties together, everything, and it's important going forward that this is how we look at things. We look at it not only, locally, but we look regionally and outward. And we have an opportunity in Brisbane to really be a leader in that department. So I think it's just, when you think of it, I want to leave this place better than when I came here.
Thank you. And finally, Ms. Liu.
Thank you. I think that, having a sustainable community is really our opportunity to have a great brand for Brisbane. And with respect to the Baylands, there's so much we can do. We can encourage an energy neutral development, one that has to meet the LEED Gold standards, one that includes renewable energy uses, green building practices, and of course social equity in the jobs that are created there. There's also a lot that we can be doing outside of the Baylands, just within the community, to promote sustainable practices. For instance, at the Landmark Homeowners Association, we recently started installing smart watering meters to reduce our water consumption. I would love to encourage to see the rest of the city do that as well, to encourage water conservation. The Open Space and Ecology Committee is looking at car share And those are just some ideas that I think would be good.
Thank you, Ms. Liu. Well, this is, there have been a lot of questions tonight, and you've all held up pretty well, so I think the audience appreciates the opportunity to hear your views on so many of these. Each candidate is going to have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and when we do closing statements, we always reverse the order from that of the opening statements. And they drew lots for those. So we will start with Lori S. Liu, who has 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming out tonight to listen to what each of the candidates have to say. As you know, public participation is really so important to how our city works. I would love to have the opportunity to represent the families of Brisbane and to use my legal background to study and advocate for issues facing our community, such as the Baylands. I will support protecting our environment, preserving San Bruno Mountain, and looking carefully at ways to promote our local businesses and bringing new revenue to the city. On Election Day, I ask for you to vote for Lori Liu, and I truly do appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. You're also nice and concise. That was Lori S. Liu. Next is Cliff Lentz, closing 2 minutes.
Thank you for your great questions tonight. It was very enjoyable being here and being able to respond to those questions. Back in 2009, when I first ran, I ran on the issues, which were the Baylands and economic prosperity, and making sure that we maintain the services and programs that we all enjoy and all rely on. Here we are in 2013, and I'm still running on those issues. But what's different this time is that now I have 4 years of experience under my belt, and that's given me a pretty unique position to really understand the complex issues that are facing our community. And to be able to implement strategies that hopefully produce positive outcomes. So I'm really looking forward to participating and engaging all of you, in some of the things that are important, whether it's raising money for the skate park or acquiring open space, looking at perhaps expanding the library or creating a new community center. I think we can do those things. I'm looking forward to creating better conditions for economic prosperity that respect the environment and also the culture of Brisbane. And then, of course, the Baylands. I really do think that we can create a development that is energy positive, that creates a first-class transportation system, and that shows that you can do development that is in harmony with nature. And so I hope that I've done a good job the last 4 years. I hope that I can earn your vote again. And thank you, and thank you to the League and to the Chamber for tonight.
Thank you, and that was Cliff Lentz. And the next closing statement will be from W. Clark Conway.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity, and thanks for everybody for showing up and all the folks that are home and watching this. I know it's a #1 rated program tonight, in lieu of football. So anyway, I think the last question really kind of summed up the direction of where we're probably heading in Brisbane, which would be a good thing. I come out very strong as anti-housing on the Baylands, and the reason I am is I'm one of the few people in this room who've seen that filled. Hundreds and hundreds of garbage trucks backing up and dumping, unrestricted dumping, toxic waste, paint, everything imaginable into the bay, and then along with the rail yards too. And there's about 5 or 6 reasons in this room right now, and that's those little kids that are sitting next to you. That's our future, and I would not want to see them out there, living out there. You just don't know what's going to happen. I'm not anti-housing. I'm actually a housing advocate, and I'm an affordable housing advocate, and I'd like to see housing for our teachers, our police, our fire people, our service industry people, where we can do some things where people aren't living out in the valley and traveling, 50, 60 miles to come here and serve other people. to do the stuff that they're supposed to do. And that's a carbon footprint that we shouldn't have. We need to reduce that, and we need to get these folks living in our community to where they can afford to live here. And that's what's really going to make a difference on where we're going to go in the future. So I ask for your vote on November 5th, and also a yes on Measure T. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That was W. Clark Conway. And finally, the last closing statement is Gavin Kelly Uscalar.
Thank you so much for listening to all of us and for the people on watching on TV. Yay. Anyways, I would like to let you guys know that I myself am running for City Council in the basis of artistry, in the basis of fostering cultural development, pride of community, and at the same time more so in regards to fostering new enterprises to come over here to Brisbane and fostering our current enterprises to actually grow in here. I have a lot of international business experience, and at the same time I'm very entrepreneurial. And last but not the least, I would love to hear from each and every one of you guys on how we should run the community. And so I respectfully ask your vote for the November 5 election. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, I have a few closing remarks, but right now I think it's time to thank our candidates for being here. It takes a lot of courage to get up and run for office. I respect anybody that does it, whether they're finally elected or not. So I'd like to applaud our candidates and thank them for being here. And I'm going to. This forum will be available on the internet, and I'll be putting a link up on our own League of Women Voters website. I think it'll be on the city website as well. I want to put in a plug for smartvoter.org. That's the League's voter information website. All the candidates have been asked to invited to put their information up. I checked this afternoon, and you haven't done it yet. And if you need help, I can help you. But they can put much more information than they're able to put in the ballot pamphlet. So I encourage you always to check smartvoter.org. There'll be information also about Measure T. And remember to vote on Tuesday, November 5th. I'm sure since you're here, you will do it, but I encourage you to go home and remind your neighbors and friends and relatives to be sure and vote as well. And I also want to thank Mitch Bull and the Brisbane Chamber of Commerce for sponsoring this. We really appreciate it because we're doing about 15 candidate forums in our area, and we couldn't do it without groups like this helping us and arranging the places and this. So thank you very much. And you can always check our website and our League phone if you need more information. Just go to League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Concludes the evening.
All right. Good job, guys. Yeah, nice to meet you.